Welcome to Sat Chats ReHash, the Bitcoin podcast where we go back over our Sat Chats episodes to summarize them for you, to fact check ourselves and close up any conversational threads that were left open. So this is a great opportunity for you to figure out if you want to go back and listen to any of those episodes because they've got content in them that interests you. And it's a great opportunity for us to clean up our side of the street and touch on these things so that we can keep ourselves moving forward. I'm your host, Stewart Bitcoin Maxi, who wears prescription sunglasses to protect you and your loved ones from my Bitcoin laser eyes.
And I am your co-host, Chris, founder and CEO of Ithaca Hummus, Bitcoin smash buyer and proud multi-coiner. And if you have been paying attention, it's like every time you see us, we've got something new cooking up for you guys, right? We've got our long form chats that we do one-on-one with pre-coiners, with Bitcoiners to share their experience, strength, and hope with you. We've got short stacks, which are little 10-minute snippets of just Stewart and I diving deep into specific topics that we're hearing from you want to know more about. And now we've got Sat Chats ReHash, and we're going to get that kicked off for you right now.
That's right. Hashing and hash rate, both important concepts for Bitcoin. And you can keep your eyes peeled for a short stack on those soon.
Yeah.
But here, this is the rehash. So we love that here on the show. We're going to be rehashing episodes 0 through 9 today. So let's get started. Episode 0 was that was number 0, Stewart and Chris. Let's go. Just the two of us talking to you all about our personal Bitcoin stories. Talking about the reasons why I decided to adopt Bitcoin to help me get a grip. I mean, climbing the corporate ladder for 10, 15 years and still have nothing to show for it. Bitcoin helped me get a grip. Chris talked about learning about Bitcoin, lighting himself on fire, smash buying like an absolute Chad. And we talked about how we wanted to start the show to serve as the world's biggest Bitcoin welcome center and your gateway to generational wealth. So what were some of the things we said that were fully not correct?
Uh-oh.
And we've got Chappie here. Chappie is one of our employees here on the show. And she says that the first thing we said wrong is, number one, the risk profile of Bitcoin on a scale of 1 to 10 is not 11, it's 0. Stewart uses this line humorously to push back on the Fidelity representative's caution, et cetera, et cetera. There's some risk. So what Chappie wants us to let you know is that Bitcoin does come with risk. I'm over here and I literally will tell you that Bitcoin has no risk, but it is important to say that it does have some risk. I think the distinction here, a lot of people approach Bitcoin as an investment risk. Hey, it's volatile. It's going to go up. It's going to go down. It's just like a stock or a bond. And from my perspective, it's money. So the risk for me is more in the losing it and not being able to get it back. If your gold coins go off the side of the ship, if your pile of cash burns Joker style, you can't get that stuff back. And if you lose the keys to your Bitcoin, you are not getting that Bitcoin. So for me, the risk would be making sure you're storing your keys correctly.
Fair.
Okay. And we'll do a short stack on how to store your keys as well for you all. So, we can't access our 401k money until we're 65. Chappie says that while we are correct, the usual earliest penalty-free withdrawal age is 59 and a half.
Okay.
So the can't touch it until we're 65 is an oversimplification.
Yeah.
Hey, all I know is that that's still going to take about 20 years for me to be able to do something with it. So I'd rather have Bitcoin that I can work with now than a retirement account that I got to hang out 20 years.
Now, your company is not going to do any kind of 401k match on Bitcoin yet.
Yeah.
Unless you work for Sat Chats.
Ooh.
We might be able to figure that out around here.
Ooh. Ooh, I like that. But our retirement at Sat Chats is going to be, here's your Bitcoin.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. It's pretty simple. It's pretty simple.
Don't overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
Bitcoin's the greatest. So
Yeah.
here's your Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Okay. And this one's my favorite.
Mhm.
Chappie says, the hyperbolic claim that the Fidelity rep killed the grandma by talking her out of Bitcoin.
This is on episode 0 still, right?
Episode 0, I claim that the Fidelity rep who talked to the grandma out of yeeting her entire retirement into Bitcoin killed the grandma because she basically destroyed her access to generational wealth, and she might live long enough to see her whole account dry up, et cetera, et cetera. Chappie wants you to know that this was intended as tongue-in-cheek, even though it was stated as literal cause and effect. So it says, in reality, being more conservative with a retiree's money isn't tantamount to harming them. But here's what I'll say to you all right now. Actually, here's what I'll say to the grandma. 70-year-old grandma, if you're watching this episode of Sat Chats Rehash and you remember talking to someone who was maybe Susan in Colorado at Fidelity who talked you out of your Bitcoin hopes and dreams, contact show@satchats.com and we're going to bring you on.
Oh, that would be awesome.
So we want the grandma to come on this show. We want all our satillionaires to find her. All right, so conversational threads left open or unresolved. Sometimes we go down a rabbit hole and we don't come back to it. Hilariously enough, she says the fate of the 70-year-old grandma was left open.
Well, we don't know the answer to that.
We don't know what actually happened to the grandma. And Chappie wants to know whether, her Bitcoin IRA story ends with a dramatic flourish or not.
I mean, who doesn't? Chappie's not alone in that, I'm sure.
We love that. So we want to know about the grandma. She also points out that we didn't really get into the mechanics of rolling over a 401k into an IRA for Bitcoin.
Mm.
And even though I don't really want to be that show, I mean, very quickly, my experience was I had a 401k. I wanted to roll it over to an IRA. I called Fidelity. I asked them to do so. And since the 401k with Fidelity was moving to an IRA with Fidelity, they just hit some bleeps and some bloops, and all of a sudden I had that account. It wasn't hard.
You know what, though? That I can imagine for our audience out there are probably many people that find themselves in that exact position right now, right? So why don't you comment below if you would like to see us do a short stack on that topic specifically. We're all about the consumer. We're customer first around here. So while we might not be a natural piece of content that we would create on our own, if you would like to see it, we want to consider that too. So
yes, we're all about those desire paths. So make it happen. So last piece from episode 0 is the broader plans for Chat Sats. So Chappie talks about how we said we want to be the biggest Bitcoin welcome center, but we didn't go into details like scheduling, frequency, how to sign up.
Okay, great.
Very interesting. So if you're wondering who can come on the show, the answer is everyone.
Everybody.
If you're a beginner with no Bitcoin at all, you can come on the show. If you just bought your first Bitcoin, and maybe a better way to say that is if you just stacked your first sats, you can come on the show. And if you're like number 16 Miles who bought Bitcoin when it was $7,
oh, love Miles,
you can come on the show. You go to satchats.com. There's one button. You click it. It takes you to our Calendly. You pick the day and time that works for you. You hook us up with a little bit of information about you, and you're all done. You can come into the studio if you're here in Raleigh with us.
We prefer that. Come on in. If you're in Raleigh, especially, don't be a virtual guest. Get into the studio with us.
Chris loves people in person.
Yeah.
I love virtual engagements because then that means I can isolate but still get credit for socializing.
All right.
He's right, though. He's right. It is better to be in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're in Raleigh or if you're within spitting distance, or if you're going to come to Raleigh for a conference or to travel or whatever, schedule you some time on the show, man. But if you're in Portugal or Argentina or wherever and you want to be on the show, just rip it virtual. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
All right.
How about schedule? What are our plans for the schedule of this show?
So our goal is to release a Sat Chats episode Monday through Friday at about 6 a.m. Eastern, so you can listen to it on your run or your commute in. All my chaps in the UK, you can get your fresh episode with lunch. And then, across America, as you wake up, it'll be there for you. And then on the weekends, short stacks, get you your little bites, etc. Shorts everywhere. We're going to be all over the place.
Yeah, and check out the playlist feature in our channel so that we can help you navigate exactly to what you're looking for.
So episode 1 of Sat Chats, that was with number 1, Jesse. We went on a tour of the most basic questions like, what is Bitcoin? Why own it? Is it safe? How do I store it? Do I spend it? She ended up getting 54,400 sats. Which was awesome. And she was our very first one. So things we said that were wrong. Chappie says that we claimed Bitcoin has averaged 211% annual return from 2010 to 2024. Chappie's letting us know that different data sources often cite 170 to 200% annualized return. So here's what that means. Bitcoin's going up.
Yeah.
Okay. We said Bitcoin goes up, and Chappie's like, that's not quite right. Bitcoin goes up.
Yeah.
So if you want your wealth to go up, get some Bitcoin. We said capital gains tax is about 25%. She's saying that might vary between 15, 20, 25%. And then things look pretty good over here. We did mention that Bitcoin is backed by the biggest supercomputer on earth, and Chappie is saying that Bitcoin's combined hashing power is massive. But calling it the largest supercomputer is an oversimplification.
Well, that's what we're doing here.
But
we're trying to take a very complex topic and simplify it so people can understand.
Yeah, come on, chaps.
What the heck?
Then she's back. She's jumping on our back again about saying Bitcoin is zero risk. So conversational threads left open. Let's see what we got here. Tax implications for different countries. Practical steps for self-custody. Okay. And, if you want to know more about self-custody, then we'll have a short stack for you on that, right? We've already got a short stack on how to find an exchange, how to get a wallet, how to send from the exchange to the wallet. So check that one out.
Fair.
Okay. So that was a little bit quicker.
All right, great. All right, now we're going to roll into episode 2. This was Jorm.
Yep. Number 2, Jorma, my brother.
So main topics that we discussed: Bitcoin adoption and the learning curve for a new Bitcoiner. We talked about self-custody and Bitcoin versus the ETFs.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about government regulation and taxes, Bitcoin's future as a global currency, inflation and fiat money problems. I think we talk about that just about every episode.
Mm-hmm.
Ease of use and future innovations. And in Jorma's final decision of Bitcoin versus cash, he made the right choice.
That's right. So 2-0 at this point in our history.
What's up? Chappie's not giving me the value in sats here, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. All right. Fact checks. What are we getting called out here? Number 1, the U.S. is the largest government holder of Bitcoin at approximately 200,000 BTC. Well, that's mostly true. I don't see what it's saying here. It's saying that China has an estimated 190,000.
Yeah.
So that's new information. But
no, we're good, right? So right here, I think the first thing that we need to talk about, Chappie says that it's wrong for us to say that Germany sold all their Bitcoin at 58,000 and got quote unquote wrecked.
Who said that?
I did. And the reason why I said that is because Germany did dump all their Bitcoin last summer and they fully got wrecked. I think she's just trying to point out that maybe that $58,000 price point.
No. Here she said Germany did sell seized Bitcoin, but not all of it. Some reports indicate they sold large amounts at lower prices, but the exact numbers are unclear. Okay.
So Chappie's saying, look, Germany didn't sell all their Bitcoin and get wrecked. They sold most of their Bitcoin and got even more wrecked at a lower price point. That's what I'm hearing here.
All right. Next up, Trump wants to keep all U.S. Bitcoin and not sell it. Whoever said that, no official policy states Trump would keep all seized Bitcoin. Some Bitcoiners believe his administration could be pro-Bitcoin, but this is speculative.
Okay,
Fair.
okay.
Right.
And my preferred term for said individual is nation-state president. So,
Yeah.
because when you're listening to this in the 23rd century, you're not going to care, right?
Yeah.
When did Diocletian rule? You don't know,
No.
right? Who ruled France in 1532? You don't know. But nation-state president is an evergreen term, and allegedly it's speculative to say that.
All right, next. AI would choose Bitcoin as the best money. Speculative. AI could prefer Bitcoin for its scarcity and programmability, just like us, but it's not guaranteed. I'd bet on it though.
So one of these episodes, comment in the comment down below if you want the next guest on Sat Chats to be Chappie, and we will talk to Chappie. And we'll see if Chappie will choose $50 or $50 in Bitcoin.
All right, bet. All right, unresolved threads. Hyper-Bitcoinization timeline. Okay, we don't really know when that's going to happen, but it's going to happen. Future government actions. Will all governments adopt Bitcoin as a reserve asset? Well, what we know is that the United States just announced a sovereign wealth fund, and the managers of that sovereign wealth fund all own massive amounts of Bitcoin. Ooh. So take that for what you will.
Also, the Czech Republic just effectively ended capital gains taxes on Bitcoin held for longer than 3 years, which is a step toward treating it like money.
Yep.
Nobody gets capital gains tax on their dollars.
Yep. All right. Ease of use and adoption barriers. What innovations will make Bitcoin simple enough for everyday users? We talked about this today. So go into Venmo right now. You can buy Bitcoin. I believe you can transact with Bitcoin. So
that's crazy.
I don't want to cause another follow-up for the future.
We're going to have to rehash the rehash, y'all.
Whether or not that is true, one day it will be true that you can use your Venmo, you can use your third-party payment processors to load into your Amazon account, just like you do right now. And what happens then? Boom. You're transacting with Bitcoin on Amazon, on Walmart.com, Target.com, wherever you buy just about anything. So those are the kind of adoption barriers that I guess are barriers, but as you can see very quickly, they get knocked down pretty easy.
Yeah, the market's going to figure it out. Just stay humble, stack sats, and it'll all come.
We got it. All right, Bitcoin versus other digital currencies. If Bitcoin becomes dominant, what happens to all? Well, that's a dumb question. Bitcoin is dominant. What happens to other altcoins?
People realize that they're no good. And they just go with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, chaps.
Yeah. Okay. Exit tax and capital controls. If Bitcoiners trying to leave the U.S., will the government? We don't know. Speculative.
Well, all I can tell you is in the late 90s with that nation state president at the time, they did impose like exit taxes where you had to have like over $2 million net worth or something like that. So it remains to be seen what nation states are going to do to deal with Bitcoiners who decide they want to move to the Czech Republic so that they don't have to pay any old capital gains, nothing on their Bitcoin, right? Like up until this week, all us satillionaires were eyeballing El Salvador, right? And the Lisan Al Naib as a place to go if we decide that they treat Bitcoiners better. But dude, as of this week, Prague is looking juicy.
Oh,
Prague is looking nice.
Wow.
I'm going to go be bohemian, man.
Yes. We got to be careful over there, though. All right. What happens when AI uses Bitcoin? We just kind of talked about that.
Yeah.
Practical spending with Bitcoin. Where can you actually spend Bitcoin today? Well, I mean, just yesterday in one of our episodes, we had a conversation about using Bitcoin to settle large international transactions. So let's just say you buy in the example of this episode, a large piece of equipment that's built and manufactured in another country. Well, you could use a credit card with high processing fee of 3 to 5%. You could use ACH payments where you've got two third parties, both banks involved, holding onto your money as long as they can and making money on the float. Or in Bitcoin, you can send the money like that for next to nothing. So what was it? Practical? That seems pretty practical to me.
It says it in the first line of the white paper. Bitcoin is electronic peer-to-peer cash. And in episodes 1 and 2 with Jesse and Jorm, they both could understand Bitcoin as digital gold, but they were struggling to see it as digital cash. And I didn't quite have the symmetry at that time in our show to say Bitcoin is digital gold, but it's also digital cash. So we kind of fumbled around and left those threads open. But the fact of the matter is that there are people, there are companies, there are even countries that will accept Bitcoin today as digital cash. And the number of people who will grow to be the same way, it's only going to go up over time.
Yep. And that's going to drive the value up. Next, is Bitcoin truly private? Well, what do you mean by private? If you're trying to make sneaky transactions that no one's going to know about, no, it's not.
Yeah. And when I was listening to the episode, we started talking about mixers before we moved on to somewhere else.
Okay.
So effectively, Bitcoin is public. I mean, every single transaction since the beginning of Bitcoin's history 16 years ago is publicly available for anyone to inspect. And that transparency is part of its value. But it's important to remember that on-chain transactions are it's from one address to another. And these addresses are big random strings of letters and numbers. So unless someone knows what your address is, they may not know that it's you. But in today's world, most exchanges want you to give them information about who you are so they can associate you with your Bitcoin address.
Well, let's talk about a different kind of privacy for a second, though, because if you've got a bank account, is your money really private in that sense? Okay. Can the bank or can the government or can some third party that's not you come in and freeze that account? Come in and take the assets in that account? I mean, the answer is if they wanted to, yes.
And they collect a lot of information about you too.
And they collect a lot of...
That's another form of privacy.
Is that true with Bitcoin? If you have your seed phrase and your keys, that cannot happen to you. So for me, that's the kind of privacy that matters. You know, do I care if someone sees that I have transacted with Bitcoin and, you know, as long as I'm not doing anything I'm not supposed to be doing, that really doesn't matter to me. Yeah.
And I guess people are, you know, my Venmo app has a whole social feed of people paying each other and like telling everyone what the payment's for. So Bitcoin does allow you to transact directly with someone else. And even though the blockchain is there and the public action is there, it is private in other ways. But we didn't get into mixers with Jorma. And very quickly, a mixer is going to take your Bitcoin in one side. It's going to mix it up a bunch. It's going to spit it out the other side so that you can take an address people know about and get your Bitcoin out of it and to another address that they don't know about. And we'll leave that one there.
Okay. When will Bitcoin be backed by governments? I mean, I would argue it already is. It already is. When BlackRock and Fidelity buy hundreds of billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, you know, I don't know, not to dive into the conspiracy and the collusion between big banking, big business and government. BlackRock is the government to me. I don't see a lot of separation between big banking and the US government these days. So from that sense, that's kind of how I look at it.
Well, you know, from my perspective, because I got into Bitcoin right when the ETFs were approved, it was a moment for me to step back and say, well, if the nation state, if the government doesn't like a currency that competes with its currency, and it's just individuals around the world who are using it, they might get in there and try to do something with it. But you better believe that when a company like BlackRock, Fidelity, and soon enough, with the repeal of some regulations that were holding them back, the banks get into Bitcoin and the government tries to say something about Bitcoin, those banks, those financial managers, they'd be like, no, no, no. No, sir. And I saw that as a form of protection. Like, go ahead and try to do something to Bitcoin now, because these massive organizations, they are not going to be happy with you if you do. And, and even though I can't really have much of an impact on my government besides voting, better believe these organizations can.
Yep.
So that was number 2, Jorma. All right, so number 3 was Justin, my old cybersecurity pal. And we talked about how he bought Bitcoin in 2017 when it was less than $10,000. Then he sold it too early and regretted it. He would have had 10x the amount of cash if he had just held it. And from there, we talked about Bitcoin's value, mining, blockchains, Bitcoin versus traditional assets. Again, Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, digital gold versus digital cash, along with taxes and some speculation on the future price of Bitcoin. And I can actually tell you right now that the future price of Bitcoin at any given time will be 1 Bitcoin is worth 1 Bitcoin. So fact checking. Let's see what Chappie says here. Mining fairness misconception. We should definitely go over this. I have a little bit axe and it chugs away in my house. It says here, it was claimed that a small miner, for example, BitAxe, has the same chance as a large mining operation. And that's what I believed. So let's see what Chappie says. Correction, mining power or hash rate dictates probability. Large mining pools with higher hash rates have significantly better odds. And I think we conveyed that. My little BitAxe is like a lottery ticket. And every 10 minutes, I have a chance to win the lottery, and I'm fine with that. Okay. This one's interesting, too. It was suggested that Bitcoin exists, quote unquote, inside the program and is, quote unquote, distributed over time. And you hear me say, hey, we're not even 12% of the way through Bitcoin's initial distribution. But Chappie wants us to let you all know that Bitcoin is not pre-mined, like some of these cryptocurrencies, and therefore does not exist before mining. New Bitcoin is issued only when blocks are mined.
So it's not as if unmined Bitcoin are sitting somewhere in the protocol. They literally do not exist until they are mined.
And the last one we'll go over from Justin is this idea that the price will go up forever. The argument that Bitcoin will always appreciate was made without discussing potential risks. Clarification, Bitcoin has historically increased in value, but there are risks like regulatory crackdowns, technological risks, and market cycles. So what I'm hearing here is Chappie says, hang on, Bitcoin has historically increased in value. Sweet, thanks, chaps, appreciate it. We'll take that one. So open conversational threads. Mining difficulty adjustments, alternative use cases for the blockchain, whether or not the government would adopt Bitcoin, practical spending, how to secure your hardware wallet, along with the future of Bitcoin in terms of AI or quantum computing interacting with it. So those are a lot of open threads, but what's really nice about Sat Chats is the more you listen, the more we close these things up over time, right? Yeah. There are other episodes where we talk about Bitcoin as digital cash, where we talk about the government's, relationship to Bitcoin, AI, etc. So I don't think we need to close any of those up for now. Just keep listening to the show. Okay, so wow, I guess we had a little bit more to clean up than I expected. And I think more interestingly, Bitcoin and chatting about sats opens up more conversational threads than you can close.
Yeah.
And I love that about Bitcoin because there's so much to it. And anyone who spends any amount of time actually looking at Bitcoin gets to the point where they're just like us and they love Bitcoin. They want to stack their sats. So we did 0, 1, 2, and 3 today. We got through 4. We'll leave it at that. Make sure that you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit us with 5 stars on Spotify. We are in here chatting about sats because we know it's that important for you. So help us get to 999 plus 1 subscribers so we can unlock a live show for you all Friday mornings at 10 a.m. And remember, Sat Chats ReHash is for educational purposes only and should not be construed as financial advice.